If you're living your life to leave an inheritance so that your children will have something better than you began with, those that get the inheritance are really glad you're dead. So, Aaron, pay attention. When your father changes his car's license plates to "I'm off to spend my son's inheritance," that means you're not listening. All right. So, but those that, if you learn to live your life based on leaving a legacy. You know, proverbial literature says that a good name is worth more than riches and gold. So let's try to win it all. Can you win it all? And that's the goal. If we say you were born to win, you shouldn't die disappointed. By the same token, we need to get out of procrastination. If only I had this skill, I could have. If only, but also. And working on other people's goals and other people's talents. No. We're going to show you how to build it right. All right? So let's just navigate real quick. There are 4 stages to growth. Level 1 is what we call unconscious incompetence. We don't know, we don't know. When you first saw a bicycle, when you first saw a business plan, you saw other people riding a bike and you were pretty sure it would be easy as a child. There's an exhilaration that gets on that bike that first time, and the first 45 times you fall because you realize that gravity and balance are something that need a lot of synchronization. But before you can get gravity and balance, you need support. So your dad or someone pushes you for a little bit, the training wheels come off, they push you some more, and then suddenly one day you look back and no one's holding you, but you figured out how to do it on your own. But when you first saw it, you were unconsciously incompetent. You didn't know you didn't know. Once you figured it out, that balance, and you fell, you quickly grew. You realized you were consciously incompetent. You knew you didn't know. So we grow from not knowing we don't know to knowing we don't know. There comes a point in life where we reach conscious competence. I know that I know that I know that I know. This is when we go through the road. We just go through life hoping that tomorrow will change. Let me remind you, if we are ignorant about something, being ignorant about it for a long time doesn't make you brilliant. You're just a long time ignorant person. See, conscious competence, I know that I know that I know that I know, puts you in a rut. I was doing a relationship seminar one time doing this point, and someone said, my marriage is, I think, in a rut. I said, why? He said, my wife says that I just go through the motions of being the husband. I said, what are you talking about? He says, like yesterday, she says, I don't say I love you as often as I used to. I said, and? He said, how often should I tell my wife I love her? I said, before somebody else does. It's not complicated. I mean, the whole concept is, for example, men and women communicate differently. That's the reason our relation. See, ladies, your husband doesn't care what's on TV. He just cares what else is on TV. And men and women communicate differently. My wife says I don't listen. At least I think that's what she said. A healthy self-pride. You have to get to unconscious competence where you don't know you know. Now this morning I woke up at 4:30. I had a conference call last night at 10:30. By the time it wrapped up 11:30 with jet lag and all of the things, I set my opportunity clock. Yes, you heard me right. Negative people call it an alarm clock. See, most of you who set up what do you associate with an alarm? A siren, a fire, an emergency. If you wake up scared to death, no wonder you can't perform. Call it an opportunity clock. If you can hear it, it's an opportunity to get up and go. If, like me, you've had more birthdays than others, if you can't hear it, you might have gone. So but I set it at 4:30 and immediately woke up. Why? To prepare for this morning. But I'm unconsciously competent in my subject matter. I don't need notes. I can do 3 hours in my sleep. In fact, one day I dreamt I was preaching. I woke up and I was. So, but most people would rather hear me in their sleep than in mine. I've had people zone out. But unconscious competence is pride, where you know that you don't know you know. You don't know you know. and it just kicks in. See, we do a lot of things unconsciously competent. We drive a car unconsciously competent. We don't know we know a lot of things. In fact, I was speaking at one of those technology companies on artificial intelligence. Was a seminar. They asked me to come and motivate some of the guys. So I walked in there and I said, one of our new innovations, and it was part of Google's whole campaign to introduce driverless automobiles. And then I said, we have been ahead of that in India for a generation. Most of our cars drive like there are no drivers. So that's unconsciously competent. India is the only country that has perfected the art of make your own lane. Ironically, these are the quantitative engineers. For everything is yes or no, right or wrong, black and white. But we live amidst such mass relativism that we think goals, dreams, aspirations, and success can be tied into relativism. Relativism is a crock. Some things are right, some things are wrong, some things are good, some things are bad, some things are black, some things are white. A lady will never say, I think I'm relatively pregnant. 9 months from now, she's in for a relative surprise. Right, wrong, yes, no, good, bad, black, white. Unless you see it in that way, success in its true essence will elude you. You may have some stability. But what is true success? Success is not who you are in relation to the person sitting next to you. It's who you are in relation to where you began and what you began with. We unfortunately live in a society that thrives on competition and pays very little emphasis on completion. Competition. Now, I was an outstanding student, always outside the class standing. I tell people I was the principal's pet because he couldn't have a dog. So I knelt outside his office most of the time and barked at anybody he asked me to, but that was my life. I couldn't spell. I was a horrible student. Somehow I motored through life because my father would always say, why can't you be like their kids and at least get decent marks? One day my dad said, why do you get so many F's? And I think that's where my career as a speaker was born. When I said there are 26 letters in the alphabet, I didn't want the others to be lonely. And that's when my father's board of education started meeting my seat of learning regularly. This was my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I have now successfully spoken in every major institution in India that would have never had me as a student. All this to say, when life kicks you to the curb and you feel that you're drowning in despair. Remember, we're talking about foundation. When life kicks you to the curb and you feel you're drowning in despair, remember the moment, remember the time, and note the example. 20 to 25 years later, God in His infinite wisdom will use that moment for you to become an illustration for someone else. Amen. See, the food you eat on the mountaintop only grows in the valley. Nothing grows on the mountain. If you want a mountaintop experience, stop looking at the clouds. Look back to where you came from and bring enough people to where you are, and on their shoulders, they'll take you to the mountaintop. Emerson said, if you're going to pull me up, you better be on higher ground. Coach Joby Harris said, otherwise the day will come and by the sheer weight of our numbers, we will pull you down. I gave one of my favorite illustrations is from yesterday, and I'm an observational commentator, which means I take slices of life and weave lessons out of it, but in almost great immediacy. So yesterday morning I had to do some bank work, and maybe in India the word bank work is a oxymoron. You just go to the bank, there's no work. You come back without having accomplished anything, but you're just grateful they let you in. It's the only place in the world I know where the banks lose interest in you. once they get your money, they lose interest in you. So I had my GPS and it told me there was a branch of this bank here. So I went there and he said, "Wo to chala gaya?" I said, "Kahan chala gaya?" I'm standing here with the GPS and there's no bank. He said, "Wahan pe hai." I said, "But you can't walk there, you have to take an auto." So I went to the auto guy and I said, "Now I've got an unusual problem. I don't know where to go. I don't know how long it'll take. I don't know how long I'll need you, but I know where I need to end up." Principle number 1. Direction may change, destination never will. Direction may change, destination never will. He says, "Beriye sahab, main le jaunga." I said, "Kitna lagega? How much will it take?" He says, yeah, I said, no, total, how much? He said, dekh lenge sir. I said, chalo. I sat down. And then I said, as I started questioning him, we were stuck in traffic, go figure. I said, kaise beta diya bina daam puch ke? He said, sir, aapke chehre pe muskuraat. There's a laughter about you. Kush hua aapse milke. I thought, wow, I didn't realize that I can look motivated.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Most people walk around like they're the cruise director for the Titanic. Like someone's licked all the red off their candy, wondering why they're having no friends. Have you ever noticed some people will brighten up the whole room by leaving? Mediocrity and misery do love company. But as we finished the journey, the guy waited for me. When I left him to go into the bank, I said, "Pata nahi kitna der lagega? Do I need to give you some money to hold you?" He said, "Nahi sahab, I trust you." How can he trust me? He met me 20 minutes earlier. And that's his livelihood. Business principle number 2. You can never make a good deal with a bad person. Character is the ability to have pride in the mundane. The mundane is what we do every day. Going to the bank, picking up an offer. This is when you have joy, so that when you get to perform that which pays you, you're ready. If you make everything else miserable, that's what he meant by the elevator to the top, because the stairway to the top, the elevator is out of order. There are steps we have to take. And if you don't take those steps, there is no easy way. Sometimes I'll talk to people, I'll say, tell me a little bit about yourself. Oh, I don't know if I'm coming or going. Well, if you don't know if you're coming or going, stop, you might kill somebody. But we pretend to be logical when we're the most emotional of all species. If you ever want this, go to one of those those old red letter mailboxes that people still use mail, and watch some very emancipated soul mailing a letter. They mail the letter and look to see if this one time gravity was defied. That stupid letter always falls. We're creatures of habit, and sometimes our habits are dumb. My dad used to say, he says, you can scratch your nose this way, or you can scratch your nose this way. Either way, you'll get rid of the itch. This way, you look like an idiot. What was he saying? If culture is your only formula, tradition is your only strategy. Culture is, I'll give you a classic example. You guys enjoying this so far?
Yes.
This is yes. This is no. This is Andhra. I'm schizophrenic. So, all right. So, I can say that I am from Andhra. So my mother, when I was much younger, she would ask me to participate in a tradition that was part of a cultural ritual. It was, I later on wrote about it in America, called the principle of the coconut. She would give me a coconut. I was all of 7. She would say, on your way to school, I want you to stop at this particular shrine. This holy man will come out. He will take the coconut from you. He will break it. He will use the water for a consecration. He will bless half the coconut and keep it. He will give you the other half as a blessed offering. You bring it back home. I had no idea what I was doing for almost 6 months. There was a half-eaten coconut in my bag that I didn't touch because of discipline. Then into my life entered a new saint, Vikram, my dear best friend. He says, man, you're doing it all wrong. I'm an expert at coconut breaking. So we're going to break the coconut my way. We're going to drink the water, which is the best part. We will eat half of it. I will bless the other half, you give it to your mother. So beautifully. See, there is nothing more enjoyable in life than the spoils that come from deception. Regardless, it was tradition. So after that, I go away, become older, I get married, I go away to the West, I have my own child. As my mother gets older, a very devout woman, I was standing one day in front of her and I thought maybe I'll confess to her. So I said, Amma, you remember the coconut? She said, huh? I said, well, there was a 3-year period there where Vikram was blessing it. And that guy is about as ordained as a teaspoon. Okay, he had as much intelligence in his spirituality as, day-old broccoli, if you want to compare stuff. So when I told my mother that Vikram was blessing it, here's what she said. She used the word, which is a South Indian word that now Oxford has now entered into its dictionary as legitimate communication, ayo. So with considerable wisdom, she looked at me and said, ayo, that's why we had all that bad luck. She didn't even know. What are you putting as a cap on your own ability because of tradition? What is a hindrance to your own achievement because of culture? 7.2 billion people on planet Earth. India and China have 2/5 of the world's population. By the year 2050, India will have 50% of the youth and 75% of them will either be underemployed or unemployed. What are we doing as a culture to prepare them for a global economy? What are we doing as a culture to prepare them for a global vision, to be able to participate as a global denizen? When I was lying on that Ramakrishna beach in Visakhapatnam and looked at the ships go by, the game we used to play saved our soul. We used to say, I wonder where that ship is going and I wonder if I'll ever go there. And we used to go back, we say, oh, I think it's going to Singapore. The next evening we came and we learned a little bit about Singapore. We did that because one teacher told us to do that. That's the way you dream. That's the way you dream. And today I was able to do all of that because most of the places those ships went, I've been. So the dream, here's the thing, goals don't care who have them. Alcoholics have goals. Drug addicts have goals. Bank robbers have goals. In India, it's probably out of boredom. You go to the bank and you say, oh yeah, they're not looking at me. I think I'll just rob. Maybe I'll pay attention to me. So a healthy self-pride usually allows you to navigate each day with purpose as you learn how to meet your own expectations. See, trust. Pride comes from trust. And trust equals met expectations over a period of time. If you can meet your own expectations and someone else's consistently over a period of time, you become trustworthy. I'm going to cover one more component in the foundation and then we'll open up for some questions on this segment, all right? We're planning to go 45 minutes, maybe some Q&A, and then we can break as well if you want. So how do you turn your stars into scars? Turn your stars into scars and your hurts into halos. Learn to live your day by the clock, but your life with a vision. Learn to live your day by the clock, but your life with a vision. Now, one of the great character attributes of the nation of my birth, the nation we're standing in right now, that we even thought fit enough to export, was our inability to be anywhere on time. Our time management is legendary, it's suspect. We actually have a classification for it called IST, Indian Stretchable Time. Anybody says 9 o'clock, great, we started on time, but most places they say ish. Everybody's stuck in traffic, something's not working for whatever reason. So I went to the West with that same attribute. My time is important, I really don't care about anybody else's time. And the first time I was late for a meeting with Mr. Ziglar, I was late by 5 minutes, and he nodded his head and said, I never thought I'd hired someone who was selfish. And I thought, wait a minute, if you call me lazy, that's already my middle name. My father used to say, come here, you lazy fellow. So I knew I was lazy. Call me tardy. My mother always called me messy. But if you call me selfish, you're assaulting my character. Why would you call me selfish? He says, when you woke up this morning, you made a decision that your time was more important, and you didn't have to do anything different to get there ahead of schedule. He says, my name's on your paycheck. Hear me carefully for those of you who run businesses. Criticize someone's performance if the performance deserves criticism. But praise them as a performer so they will fight better and more dignified for you the next day. So when he criticized me, he criticized my performance. And I said, I'm really sorry. He says, but my boy is going to do much better from here on out. He praised me. I can tell you without any fear of error, since that day in early 1991, I have never been late for anything. Most days I'm ahead of schedule. Even this morning when they said, hey, because of the issues, come late, I said, no, I want to be in the room before anybody else arrives. Why? You need to feel that I care. Make sure that when you have an appointment with someone, you're always there before them. When they walk in, they say, hey, forget the transaction. Remember this, you'll win in some negotiations, you'll lose in some. But the goal of every encounter at the foundational level is this principle. 20 years from now, whether we did business or not, I should be able to sit with this person and have a meal and there should be no animosity. That's a different kind of servant leadership mindset. That's a different kind of ethos. That's a different kind of respectability. So that's important. So here are some very basic principles. Understand time management not just as managing your watch. So even a stopwatch is right twice a day. You may get lucky. Time audit. Do you audit your day at the end of the day? In terms of prioritization, do you have a list of ways in which when you do your daily disciplinarian, do you say, hey, you know what, I went there for a 2-hour meeting, the meeting only lasted 30 minutes, an hour and a half was spent in frivolity. See, don't just sit there to get there, sit there to arrive more informed. Your customers are getting keener, your competition is getting keener, are you? On the way to work, I listen to information on business, on productivity, on marketing, on sales. There are many podcasts, all of them are free. If you're in business, if you're not listening to Seth Godin, the man who turned Yahoo around, if you're not listening to Vaynerchuk, the guy who's now one of the youngest, most dynamic marketing strategists there is, but they're all in 28 to 30 to 35-minute sound bites. So go type in podcasts, download apps onto your phone. How many of you have a smartphone? How many of you are willing to admit the phone is smart, but you never got smart? Yeah, because guess what we use it for? Everything except making a call. We text, we message, we do everything, but that device at your fingertips is quite brilliant in how much information it can deliver to you. So on the way to work, I'm listening to sales advice, marketing advice, productivity advice, financial advice. On the way home, I'm releasing relationship advice, parenting advice. Because I want to be the kind of person that is more equipped about where I'm going to get than I was when I left. It's called FSA, Future Skill Attitude. See, you never dress for the job you have, you dress for the job you want. You don't build credibility for what you're doing, you build an arsenal for what you're going to be able to do. That's vision. Most people, the only vision they have, television. And the bigger the screen, the greater the stupidity. Because now you can see it all over the room. But the irony is, every part of life, Dr. Ramesh Richard, who some of you know, my spiritual mentor, Ramesh Anna gives this illustration. He says, any of you been to a sporting event like an IPL or any of those, you've gone to a match or watched on TV? How many of you are not going to raise your hands no matter what the question? I just want to get that out of the way. All right? Guess what? Tea is immediate, but it's on the ground floor. Now you won't go. There's no elevator. So it's like drink water and be happy. But Ramesh Anna says every sporting event is a microcosm of life. 75,000 people desperately need of exercise. Constantly yelling at 22 people desperately need a rest. And sometimes we are spectators in life complaining about the participators. And life is not a spectator sport, it is a participator sport. Hear me carefully. You can't win it if you're not in it. But we are a shame culture. We're afraid to fail, so I would rather sit on the periphery, comment about the rules, the regulations, the policies and procedures, than get my feet wet and get my teeth knocked out. Friends, failure is an event. In the history of humanity, it has never been a person. You can fail at something. You cannot fail as someone. God loves you too much. But when we look in the mirror, see, most people look in the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, do I have a prayer at all? If the mirror ever said, with that kind of face, go back to bed, listen to the mirror. If you walk out in this world like, you've had a bucket of castor oil that's used to take worms out, you're going to be grimacing all through life. Be happy. In fact, let me simplify it. If you're happy, tell your face. I was in Kerala recently and someone said, well, do I have to smile all the time? I said, no, I know you're the land of bananas. You don't need to go around like you've eaten a banana sideways. That's insanity. But at least a little pep in your step, a little bounce to your arms. Some of us have more bounce. But that's just because of the size we are at. But that's okay. One of the paperweights that was given to me when I first began my career by a friend of mine, was this: angels fly because they take themselves lightly. Angels fly because they take themselves lightly. Some of us are so serious. Some people are so narrow-minded they look through a keyhole with both eyes. You've also noticed that a narrow mind and a fat head usually come on the same body. In fact, this guy was saying, he said, I stopped dating that girl because she's really narrow-minded. I said, what do you mean? She's so narrow-minded, her earrings touch. So that's a whole different kind of narrow-minded, all right? Procrastination, productivity, these are questions if you don't ask yourself, what is the goal of this? To become a time miser. If you let someone else row your boat, they're going to take it to where they want to go, not to where you want to go. By the same token, if you go with the flow, you'll end up where the tide takes you. You have to rock the boat, and you have to be in control. But because we're so afraid of failure, we refuse to do anything. When I first came back from the West, I'm a salesman, really proud of it. I became VP of sales, but I still call myself a salesman who's in charge. I never got into titles. I met this one guy, I said, so tell me a little bit about yourself. He said, I'm the intergalactic director of distribution of products and service for West Coast consumption by East Coast. I said, you're a salesman. If your business card is longer than a resume, you have an identity crisis. So desperate to be something they're not. So I would go home and my father would say, stop telling everybody you're a salesman. Your brother's an engineer, and just make it sound better. I said, like what? He says, well, that fellow's son came back from America. He lives in New York, and he's doing something fascinating. I said, like what? Oh, he's a fluid dispensation catalyst. I said, that fellow pumps gas. Automotive dispatch coordinator gets a cab. So my father said, I really don't care. What will the neighbors think? I got up out of my seat. I opened the front door, went to Narendra Garu's door, rang his doorbell. He came up and said, Babu, what's wrong? I said, I just want to know what you think. He said, about what? I said, I don't know. My father's saying, what will the neighbors think? I need to clarify. The neighbors don't care. In Hindi, they have a saying, na log kya kahenge? Arey yaar, 30 saal se dhoond raha hu, log mile hi nahi. They are looking for their own log. And I'll open it up after this. 80% of the people in this world do not care you have a problem. The other 20% really grateful it's you. 100% of the people don't give a flip. So that's foundation. All right? So now I want to open it up for questions and comments or snide remarks. By the way, if you disagree with anything I say, just slap the person next to you. That way the problem remains in one day. And I don't take it with me, okay? Anybody, question for me? Something you want me to clarify? Something you want me to debrief? Yeah.
Can you repeat the statement on trust and expectation?
Yeah, trust equals met expectations over a period of time. M-E/T, met expectations over a period of time. In fact, the word pride is also an acrostic. Pride stands for personal recognition, instills in me a desire for excellence. P-R-I-D-E. Personal recognition instills in me a desire for excellence. That's not bragging. That's rewarding yourself for being good at what you do so you can learn something new. So when they have that kind, see, a healthy self-pride is fundamental to human achievement. False pride is vanity. False pride is when you spend your life feeding your ego when you should be trying to feed your family. Okay? Anybody else? Another question? See, he did not spontaneously combust, he survived. If you ask a question, you will not die.
Yes, sir. So the earlier slide was reading turning scars into stars.
Uh-huh.
You read it as stars into scars. Any particular reason?
No, that's a fireable offense, so the secretary will get a hearing. It's called, as my friend Timmy would say, spelling mistake. So, no, it's stars into scars, not the other way around. Yeah, that's a typo. So, good catch. All right.
Then even the scars can be stars.
Yeah, that's the goal. The scars into stars. But if you change your stars into scars, you're going backwards. See, most people aim high. The goal, everybody aims. See, we live in a society globally where we all aim low and hit. Our goals are just around the corner, something we can reach. Maybe it's a move across town, so you're still in the tether of your vicinity. I'm recommending you to start aiming high and miss. You'll hit a whole bunch of other things you never set out to do. Don't aim low and hit an achievable goal that is visible. Aim high and miss something. And that's what I really do believe. I really do believe that every one of us are differentiated by our talents. I think at birth, some of us have more talents than others, but none has been left without any. But the difference between a talent and a strength, I think talent comes supernaturally. But strength is man manifested. Most people will go to their graves with their finest talent still within them because they hung around with the wrong man. If it's not working, you need to change it. If something doesn't work, why do we keep doing it? So, all right. Are we going straight through or are we taking another break?
Take a 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, take a 5-minute break. Go to someone else who has the same in your introduction if you're paying attention. Some of you people like arts, go talk to them. There are 3 people who like to run. You may start now. So whatever it is, so you just meet somebody else, interact with somebody else, and if you have nothing in common with somebody else, find somebody and say, man, this speaker is lousy. All right, and then we'll deal with it in the next level. All right, so that's we've done foundation. We'll come back and do definition. And before you leave here, I'll have you set a goal in the classroom.
Subscribe to the Friendship Club channel and hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Like, comment, and share. Thank you for watching. Visit us at thefriendshipclub.in.